Hi everyone. It's a big audience. It's funny because I was in Google Cloud Summit in Stockholm last week, and somehow marketing team there, not our marketing team, but Google Cloud team messed up the schedule, and I had the total audience of four people. So it was very interesting experience. It is cozy environment here, so I think the way we will handle this presentation is that you can interrupt me at any time. It says here that everyone has a valuable opinion. I might disagree with that, but let's keep that in mind. That it's okay if you disagree with me. It's okay to say that, and yeah, it's 45 minutes. So if I'll go through slides, it will be boring. It's better to have the open discussion. Um, Thank you, Johnny, for basically going through main things. Now I have to skip base 5 6 slides. But okay, who has been at Boozt presentation before? 3 4. Okay, so you guys sit tight. Yes, this is the marketing boring stuff about the money. It's not that important. However, this number makes it much easier for us to actually do and use the cloud. So that's why I'm here to talk about the cloud, because we finally could afford to move to the cloud. And the backstory of our team and systems is that we had a development companies outsourced to Vietnam and India, and that's kind of a backstory of Boost. That here we have a guys that work here now, and that happened only around 9 or 10 years ago when we decided to hire people and have them here and build Boost.com. But back in the day, it was a little bit different, and we always like to show this picture of our CEO with one of the Indian developer managers here, where he came to Swedish winter and he wasn't really that prepared, so he had to buy some stuff here. And yeah, it's a different culture. Now we are quite a big team of 84 to actually now it's 95 almost people. We have locations in Lithuania, in Poland, Denmark, Aarhus, of course, headquarters Malmo here, and we just acquired a small 11 people development company in Copenhagen for apps. So we will have a team there as well, and of course there's a warehouse in Angelholm. So you can see it's quite split up environment, and as you can see we have quite a lot of people. So that was actually the reason also. All this background information is a little bit the reason to understand why did we move to the cloud, because those who know me, they know that I was a big proponent of that. I'm in love with dedicated machines. uh, this is our team structure. We have quite many teams, so we work in very dynamic environment. We try to build cross-functional teams in Boozt so that developers would have a lot of power to run their own things, and also they could support business in different ways. It's a very colorful slide because we are very inclusive. We have around 20 different teams doing many different things, and I'm showing this because we're also hiring a lot, so if anyone wants to come, feel free to apply. A quick intro of our tech stack. It's quite an old slide, but I think it shows that we are quite used to using open source technologies. It's nothing super fancy. You will not see Kubernetes here, or you will see React somewhere. Yes, so that's basically new stuff. Otherwise, we are pretty standard LAMP stack company, because we like to do things that work. And yeah, how many of have you heard about the concept of boring technology? Yeah. So just Google a little bit. It's a concept that I think it was Etsy CTO or one of the engineering directors that introduced that people should use technologies that are boring to build actual companies rather than jump on new things. So that's why you might not see the most exciting things, but we do exciting things in the business perspective, and that comes to the warehouse management system. Here we have a guy here, if you want to talk later. He's working and managing a couple teams that are doing integrations with the robots in our warehouse, so I think that's pretty cool. We have also quite interesting things in the backend when it comes to the data integrations, and yeah, that Johnny can tell you about. So I think it's much more excitement about things that we're doing rather than technology that we choose to do. That comes in second, because the business is number one thing. Yes. No questions so far? No? Good. We have yeah, I'm here now to talk a little bit about our infrastructure and how we moved to the Google Cloud. So as I said, we started with the dedicated machines, and that was back in the 2011. And actually, in 2010, we used cloud for our partners. However, the cost of the cloud wasn't that good. And back in the day, cloud was just putting your virtual machine into the somebody else hardware, and that was the definition of the cloud. So we did some math, and we realized that we don't have any money, which you saw there was like our revenue was maybe 700,000 kronas for a month. So we said, let's buy 2 really powerful dedicated machines and put our infrastructure there. So that's how plus minus it looked for many years. So we put our infrastructure in Rackspace back in in London. They have a data center there. They managed all the hardware for us, so we didn't really need to think about servers, the hardware itself. However, we knew the capacity that we needed. They also helped to manage that a little bit. And throughout the years, we grew that environment from 2 machines to 4, and it sounds not that impressive, but we scaled in the sense that we bought really powerful servers. It was as little hardware as possible so that we could just utilize resources there. And then, of course, that grew more and more. And I think in 2014, we had 3 or 4 consultants that contacted me and said, let's move to the cloud. We'll help you move Boozt.com to the cloud, to Amazon. It will be great. You will scale infinitely. And when you're a small company, it actually doesn't matter. It just adds so much cost for you that it wasn't worth it. So that's why I said I was big fighter against the cloud back in the day, and I tried to keep this as much as possible. Of course, after some time that we reached some bottlenecks. So I think in 2014 we realized that our growth was a little bit faster than expected, and our dedicated needs were not meeting the demand. So if standard and the standard traffic load, we would have maybe 30-40% over capacity on dedicated machines, and that was more than enough to scale. And of course, in many cases where you have some startups, they might scale 20 times, 30 times a year. However, in the e-commerce world, it is very predictable. We always knew how much servers we're going to need, because we always knew how much growth we're going to have. So it's very easy job for me as infrastructure engineer was back in the day. But of course, around 2014, there was a huge change in how people see big campaigns and Black Fridays, especially in Scandinavia, because I think there was US that mostly brought that to here, the Amazon and other guys about Black Friday. So the difference of the load of our regular campaigns and the Black Friday campaigns was increasing significantly, and I think around 5 to 10 times difference that we did a calculation that would not make sense to have overcapacity on the hardware. And when you have a dedicated servers, you cannot buy them for 1 week. You have to buy them at least for 3 to 6 months minimum, and that's if you have a good supplier, especially if you're small. So that caused us to use Rackspace Cloud, and it was an interesting solution that they had, where we were able to put in the same dedicated data center where we had our dedicated machines. We could also utilize their cloud, meaning getting virtual machines up and running, as many resources as we could have. And that was all right for 2014, I think, but we still experienced downtime there. And issue was also performance. So virtual machines were so much in performance, and the challenge with our PHP. Anyone here is working with PHP? Okay, cool, good. So PHP is very dependent on single thread and single CPU speed. Basically, if your CPU is slow, your application is slow, because it's not utilizing multi-threading. So when you move your applications to the cloud, they become so much slower because VMs are so much slower compared to dedicated. Where we didn't build very fast applications because we relied on really fast hardware, and that was a big advantage. So of course, after some time, we noticed that Rackspace Cloud is becoming a bottleneck. At the same time, we started working on the machine learning projects, and of course, that's the Aarhus team that you saw on the map in Denmark. And of course, there was an idea to build all that machine learning idea and big data idea in our dedicated servers to have Hadoop clusters and so on. But we did the math and the discussions, and again, I didn't really want to manage all that hardware, so we decided to try Google Cloud, and I think it went all right. So that this is the view more or less of 2015, I would say, where we had a dedicated environment with a interconnected local network to the Rackspace Cloud, where we could utilize quite a lot of resources, uh, but with the limits. And then, of course, Google Cloud for big data, and it says additional capacity, but it's not entirely true. And yeah, these are the main companies that support us, where we utilize yeah, Google Cloud, Rackspace. I'm promoting Rackspace a lot because they did help us for quite many years when it comes to dedicated machines, but also managing the Google Cloud. So as a small team for many years in Boozt, we always try to focus on things that matter. And a good example would be building. We didn't want to be responsible for the hardware, but we also didn't want to spend too much time learning about infrastructure, where we could just get help from Rackspace, for example, and then all our talent could focus on the business applications. So that's how we saw it. We use New Relic a lot as well, so I can't recommend it more. It's really good tool for application monitoring, infrastructure monitoring, mobile apps monitoring, everything, and it kind of combines everything else. And these are just known things. No questions so far? Yes? Yes, good question. I just need to drink. So yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that we also put Cloudflare in front of it. I'll come to that later. It's a very good question, actually. So Google Cloud Decision was very associated with our Google Analytics tracking. So we started using Google Analytics from the beginning. So we had really good relationship with them. In addition, we used Google AdWords to market ourselves. So we spent quite a lot of money. So naturally, we had a, a good relationship with them. Our management was invited to certain events there and so on. And they were pushing a lot on machine learning. And just right at the time when we started our machine learning and big data team in Aarhus. So it was very natural choice to look at Google Cloud for that. And one of the first projects that we did was to move our Google Analytics data to BigQuery. And that we fell in love with, because BigQuery is so freaking awesome. Seriously, it's the best. It's hands down the best tool for big data analysis, and now with the new products, even machine learning. So that kind of invoked the whole Google Cloud discussion there. And I can tell you that, as I said, it was very much push from Google Cloud also towards the management, because they knew them in Silicon Valley, so they were like, you should try this and that, and then people were asking why you're not in the cloud. Yeah. As I mentioned, we focused a lot on building everything ourselves, so that we actually did it ourselves as well. Yes. So because we didn't need to spend time on infrastructure management and server management, we had time for developers to build internal systems. So we did build our web shop e-commerce system as well. So not we don't use any Magento or anything, not Demandware. We build it in house, and on top of it we built CMS, uh, warehouse management system, customer service system, even phone system. Uh, what else? Partner system, and so on. All data integration systems. All those kind of things we did in house. Yeah. And back in the day, I think we were what, 15 people-ish or so, and we did all of these things with 15 people. And now, because of the tech debt, we need 94 to maintain them. But don't tell anyone. Yeah, I'm actually asking myself a question. We did so many things with so little amount of developers, and now we're hiring, and it's like, why? It's probably my code. Yeah. Okay. This is from practical standpoint. Just wanted to. Yes. Okay. uh, you have the whole list of tasks that you have to do. Okay, so dedicated. Yeah, this is what it looked like for from a practical perspective. And actually, we still have a couple dedicated servers left for internal systems. So this is how it looks. We have Cloudflare on top of everything, and it's so nice. I really love it, especially the new worker tools that they have. So if you want to discuss more or ask later about Cloudflare, I can definitely talk you through it. Then we had some Cloudflare takes care of the CDN and application delivery network, and then they also provide the security, firewall, and so on, mostly from the DDoS perspective. Then we have our own cabinet with high availability firewalls and some dedicated machines. So you can see now here we had I think this is the picture from 2015. No, 16. Yes, it's 19 now. Yeah, last year we moved to the cloud. Okay, so it's 17. We had a structure of the web servers that took care of all the PHP requests, of the Redis caching. We had a couple database servers that had a high availability between themselves. And yeah, I think it was 6 or 7 really powerful machines. Each of them had maybe 72 cores or something like that. So it's quite strong machines. And here you can see in the red line, it's called Rack Connect, and this is where we hit the bottleneck with the Rackspace dedicated machines and the Rackspace Cloud for our scalability. So what we didn't realize until too late in 2017 Black Friday, that this line is only 100 megabits, and and we had a lot of traffic here, and web traffic started going here, but also sometimes going back to the master databases here. So of course this really piled up. And the funny thing is that whenever a request comes into this firewall, the Rack Connect is also through this firewall. So one connection here would create like 3-4 different connections through firewall. So our firewalls just went down basically. And that was yeah, that was in 2016 actually. Sorry, yeah, that was 2016. Uh, in theory, this was really good because in 2017 we did similar setup, but we changed a couple things. We removed this Rack Connect part so that the traffic would be going through here. And also that's where I'm saying the Cloudflare is good, because we could also redirect traffic to different network, completely not using internal networks. And here we only kept certain parts connecting internally, so the load here was very low. Also, we upgraded our firewall so we could support much more traffic. And in theory, everything was going well in 2017 until we had a bug. That it wasn't a bug, actually, it was our dashboard. Yes. So on Black Friday, a lot of people opened our dashboards, and we didn't accumulate that. We we had one query that wasn't connecting to the slave, so it was connecting to the master. And during big, huge load, that query was, of course, a huge select running very long. It would lock the table, and everything went crazy. So it wasn't very fun, and that was very unfortunate, because back in 2017 we did spend 3 months preparing for Black Friday, and I will talk about our preparation process afterwards. But we did spend quite a lot of time in making sure that this kind of flow works from the hardware perspective. We made sure we know what are the limits, what are the possible bottlenecks, and everything was going well. We saw that on Black Friday we were having around 30 no, it was 30 to 40% capacity used. So that meant that we could scale much more. However, that dashboard bug, of course, killed us. Yes, Google Cloud, and after that, as I mentioned, we're already kickstarting machine learning projects in Google Cloud, and of course after that we had the discussions with Rackspace, and their recommendation was to move to the Google Cloud. And I actually forgot to mention one fact. Sorry. Back in 2017, when we changed all these things, the best part of the Rackspace cloud that I'm missing in other cloud providers, well, now I think Google Cloud has something like that, but not entirely, is that all the cloud machines where you would be able to get on metal machines, meaning that through the cloud tools you can actually provision yourself a full dedicated server that would give the whole metal experience. With that, I think it didn't even have any virtualization on top of it, so that was really cool. However, they only could accommodate 10 to 15 servers per one client, and that was the 2017 limitation. We couldn't just accommodate ourselves anymore, and that's why we decided to move to the Google Cloud with Rackspace together. They said that they're gonna help with the transition, meaning they made a design and gave different suggestions of how to do it. Here you can see a rough draft of the infrastructure. Now it's much more complicated, but initially we said we'll put Cloudflare in front of it, even though technically Google Cloud is distributed in itself. However, Cloudflare really offers a good situation there where you can load balance between different networks, and that would have helped us a lot with transition. I will talk about that later. We have a cloud load balancer in front of it from Google. Then everything went to the Varnish virtual machines for caching. So we utilized Varnish quite a lot, even though we had Cloudflare in front of it. But even here in the middle, we tried to cache due to the fact that, of course, we're trying to save money with the computer resources and also offer best experience to the customers. Speed really matters, so Varnish helped a lot with caching. And then we do Cloud SQL. So our main database is MySQL, and yeah, Cloud SQL is a pain in the ass, I can tell you that. But it's better than managing it yourself. The whole transition process was 3 months from planning to execution, and I know that most painful experiences, of course, for everyone else but me. So these people can tell about that, because usually it's last minute changes that we have to do, and then developers have to clean after me. So it was I would not recommend to do this again to anyone. I would recommend to do it like 6 months before Black Friday, but it mostly it was everything was okay, but the database move was very complicated. So that's what I didn't really didn't think about, that will be complicated. If you read Google Cloud documentation, it seems very simple. You make a dump of your database and you put it on Google Cloud. It replicates everything and it works. Out of these 3 months, I spent 1 month trying to move the database, and the final restoration happened 4 days before Black Friday, where I could actually switch the traffic to live systems. It was either backups were not correct for some reason, there was bugs on Google Cloud restoration process, replication sometimes would fail randomly for some reason because it was going from Google Cloud environment to London dedicated environment. So of course that introduced a lot of errors. Schema was a little bit different because we used to use Percona server instead of MySQL, and they had MySQL 5.6. Another problem was Cloud SQL is challenging. I wrote here. Another problem was that if we did queries with a lot of attributes or something, it would just crash database, and that's apparently a bug in MySQL that Google Cloud didn't know how to fix. So basically, I was very scared and tired, but we managed to do it. And that was, I would never recommend anyone to do Cloud SQL if they can avoid it, basically. Uh, Other big part was automation refactoring. So due to the fact that we were in dedicated environment, we did quite a lot of automation with Ansible and Chef. However, cloud offers and requires a little bit different perspective from that, because you can delete everything or remove. On dedicated, you can cheat. So if you need to fix something, you don't necessarily need to fix Ansible role. You can log in and fix it. So that was completely different on the Google Cloud experience, because we had to, as I said, things can be removed, added, so we had to make sure everything is 100% automated. That made our infrastructure really, really nice, but it was quite a lot of work. Exactly. So now, yeah, now it's easy. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like when you have so much moving virtual machines and so on, you are forced to do it. But yeah, it's nice. And if they're not moving, then it's easy to get into that mode where you hack around. Even though you say we are automating everything, but I'll just SSH and fix this, and it will be all right. It's just a quick fix, right? I'll automate it later, right? Yes. Yes. Right, Yasmin? Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, during the move, of course, we found a lot of things that were not automated, and that was also quite a lot of work. Yeah, Cloudflare is a lifesaver. So this is where we had the huge advantage that we could, during the period of testing and switching, we could load balance in front of with the real traffic. So when we prepared all the environment to Google Cloud, what we did is that we made a copy of all the requests that were happening to our environment. That was Cloudflare allows you to duplicate requests and send it somewhere else with the Cloudflare worker. So what we did is that all live traffic was going to the old environment, and exactly same traffic was duplicated to Google Cloud. So we could actually see real traffic, real data going on. Of course, the integrations would not work, they would be shut down, but everything else, placing orders, it was working. So we could actually see if there was errors or not. And then after the all the testing and deciding that everything is okay, we did the load testing. That also Cloudflare helped, because we could say all the load test traffic should go to that, and we did that. And finally, the transition itself, where we moved the traffic step by step, so 5%, 10%, and so on. And in the end of the day, we did not have any downtime during the transition, so that was the best part of it. uh, Slowness, of course, was there, because we had to interconnect between databases, between the cloud and dedicated, but that did not really affect that much. It was a short period of time. Yeah, interconnection between dedicated and cloud. This was a decision that I made that I'm not sure it's good, because it's biting me in the ass, but I kind of like it. So, an option there was an option to have a VPN connection between your dedicated and the cloud. However, that makes things a little bit it makes things easier, because all your traffic is secure, so you don't need to think about that from application perspective. However, it also makes it easier to cheat yourself, that you can hard code things in dedicated and then use cloud to do different things. So it's not as flexible as it is, and then you can skip SSL termination and other things that is going through internal network. And I was afraid that when we will build out a Google Cloud environment, that it will be too much dependent on dedicated, because it will be connected through VPN. So we decided, actually, even though it says interconnect, we decided not to have interconnect. So it was all through public network. So all application communication between, or database communication between dedicated and the cloud, had to be completely through public internet, meaning that it had to be encrypted and a little bit slower. And yeah, I think that's, in the end of the day, it's a little bit tough, but it gives much more flexibility. Where are we? Oh shit, I'm talking a lot. Any questions? Yes? Yes. Yeah. So it's good for smaller things. I like it. I mean, I love MySQL. I know, but I will never use MongoDB, for example, no matter what. I know now it's probably better, but I just have bad experience from the beginning, and I hate it. So I'm a relational database fan, and of course there are some things that you can use NoSQL, but I haven't seen a use case there. Uh, and Cloud SQL is really good because you don't need to manage it, so that's why I love it. However, if you manage yourself, you get a little bit better speed. So there is a balance. Either you get much better speed when it comes to writes yourself, but then you don't have such high availability. In theory you can get a higher availability yourself. However, in practice it's hard to do. So I'll explain why. In Cloud SQL, it is a guaranteed downtime. So there is a guaranteed downtime during updates. There is no way to circumvent it, and it's at least minimum 1 minute downtime. Meaning that if you can't have 1 minute downtime or 2 minutes downtime yourself at any point of time, then you should not use Cloud SQL. From my perspective, it's okay for us to go down during the night for at least 10 minutes. I mean, developers take down the site all the time, and it's right, Marco? I mean, 10 minute downtime from infrastructure is not a big deal as long as it's not due Black Friday, and you can and you can set the Cloud SQL to not update itself during the period, and you can cheat around because you say the day when it needs to be updated on Wednesdays. So when it's Wednesday coming over, you'll move it to Monday so that it skips over the week. But that's the maintenance window. But if I don't want to have that week any maintenance window, that's the way to move around. No, no, you always have to have a maintenance window, and it will always take down the database. There is no maintenance that they would not take down the database, because the update requires the restart, and the failover is not immediate. It takes They will remove the failover works that they remove all the connections, all the IPs, and put it on the master. So the they take everything from master and put it on failover. So you in your application you don't need to have a logic in the application to failover, because you will always have the same connection settings to the master. However, that causes downtime. So if you want to have a better availability, then you should do it yourself, because you can do failover in your application where you actually switch to the other things. So I think that's one of the arguments against it. However, from my perspective, as I said, it's okay. The big argument against it from our perspective is writes. So writes are much slower because it's semi-synchronous replication. However, it offers a very good availability for the data. I mean, it's much more reliable that you will lose less data. And I haven't found a way to disable semi-synchronous, so you have to have it, meaning that when you write to this, and then it will go to another zone. And of course, the failover and master cannot be in the same data center, so there is a latency there. All the writes that are taking longer, you're screwed. So we had to refactor the whole application, all our denormalization process, which we have quite a lot. So we had to refactor a lot of queries basically for the Cloud SQL, because we didn't realize that this will happen when we moved. Then we suddenly see that half of our backend jobs don't work, and that wasn't fun. On the read perspective, it works okay. Everything is fine. When it comes to the replication lag, it actually is very low and so on. So other than that, if you don't want to manage it, it's perfect. But if you want very high availability or faster writes, then you have to do it yourself. I hope that answers the question. Perfect. Okay, I'll move a little bit faster. Actually, finally, I'll start talking about Black Friday towards the end. So Black Friday is a Super Bowl of e-commerce. Anyone is working here in e-commerce site? Okay, yes, Johnny, you as well. Good. So Black Friday normally is 10 times the traffic. That's what people say, right? And we do see that as well. Is sometimes even more. It is intense competition because everyone is doing it. Of course, it was fun back in 2014 or 15 when people didn't really prepare for it, except maybe those big tech like El Giganten and so on, tech selling companies. They were popular, right? But it's always intense competition, meaning that everyone will do it, and you have to be available, because because you want to offer the best customer experience. And here is a balance where if you're a unique e-commerce shop, if you have a product that nobody else has, you don't really care that much about downtime, to be honest. And it's not a problem because people will not be able to buy your stuff anywhere else. So they are there for Black Friday to buy your stuff, meaning that downtime is not a big deal. Of course, you will lose some clients, but it's not that crazy. However, let's say we have products that many other e-commerce shops have. So when we are down, they will just go to other company, and then we are screwed, right? So for us it's a little bit more expensive. However, during Black Friday of 15 and 16, when we experienced those downtimes, we actually saw that people would come back a little bit later to try and buy. So actual loss is not that high, but it's still there. This is a quick screenshot of the traffic, how it works. So web, you can see, is quite gradual increase of the traffic, but apps is the killer. This is what also we didn't really consider back in the day, where you send out a notification, everyone will open at the same time compared if you send an email, because on the email, when send it out, people will open maybe in the morning, maybe afternoon, depending what you're sending out. Another point that we don't see here is that back in 2016, marketing decided to say that Black Friday starts at 10 o'clock. And if you tell people, if you tell people exactly 10 o'clock, all of them will come at 10 o'clock. And that was a huge mistake that we never will repeat again. And yeah, in 5 minutes from 8,000 people it went to 25, and I could see like at 16 we were down, and I was like, it was just the front end loading. So yeah, well, kind of. They said we. I mean, we have that communication that we know, and that's the thing. Like, we agreed that we're gonna start 10, but I didn't personally. I didn't realize that we're gonna send out emails saying come at 10, and yeah. So we changed that behavior in other years where we changed a little bit. So we said maybe we should start different times for different countries. But we finally agreed that we just send out it starts now, and it's much better behavior. And this is how it looks when we send out it starts now. People just coming like this, except here. Apps was crazy. So yes, the phases that we went through. First phase is planning for Black Friday. And I would recommend to start these phases 6 months before if you don't experience. But from those that are dealing with Black Friday every year, 3 months schedule for all these phases is good enough. First, you always need to know the numbers. So as you mentioned, talking with marketing, I think it's very important. And our marketing department is extremely good at predicting the revenue. And based on the revenue, you can predict how much traffic you're going to have. And based on that traffic, you can predict how people will, how many people, yeah, how many servers you need, basically, right? It's very important to analyze customer behavior, because behavior on Black Friday is very different than the behavior on any other day. So we use, of course, historical data, but of Black Fridays, but we also use behavior analysis of the traffic for other flash campaigns. So what I'm talking about, different behaviors, for example, the apps on simple days when you send out a push notification, you don't see that big of a jump because people are not that interested. So that's first thing. Another thing is that the way they browse the site is completely different, because on Black Friday they add much more things to the cart compared to other days. They actually prepare your carts even before Black Friday, so sometimes they just come immediately and start buying. So they do much more page views, much more filtering, and that can affect so many different things. It is very important to have a communication tool. So we have a war room between not only engineers but actually with our marketing department and the whole business. We allow the whole business to join Slack room. Not everyone can speak, so it's only people that should speak. They speak, but everyone else can listen in. And if they see some problems, or if they see some things that need to be changed, they can immediately inform. A good example is that we see, oh, we are lacking traffic, for example, during some campaign, or we should start campaign different hour, then everyone can act. Or let's say when we had an issue in 2017, we immediately said, okay, we have issues, and marketing people immediately stopped spending money on Google or other traffic, because people, even if they come, will not be able to shop. So why spend money on Google ads, right? So this kind of communication is very important between different departments. Of course, reviewing the architecture is extremely important. That is goes without saying. And obviously here we have a lot of smart people, so you do that. But if you're not one of the infrastructure engineers, get your infrastructure engineers to review the architecture. It is very important to analyze all the risks that there are. So risk analysis is very important. Um, yeah, going through the patterns and just making sure that all small parts can work. uh, Make sure the monitoring works. Create the checklists. I think that's also very, very important. We did that too little a couple years ago. Now it's a little bit better. The key things that you need to do if something goes wrong, you have to make sure that you have a checklist to fix. And assume failure of your third part of your systems, but also your third party systems. So let's say payment providers, they can also go down, right? Yeah. And that happened to us also a couple of years ago. And it's a funny story we always tell about the recent sign that we had with the like sign up of the provider. It was last year when we signed up with Klarna, and we asked them what happens when you go down. How can we arrange the system so if you're down we can still sell things? They said, yeah, we don't go down. I said, sure, yeah. Exactly. So we said, no, no, but what happens if you go down? And they actually said that we were one of the first customers to ask, because nobody else assumes that they will go down and they don't really care that much. So we had the special setup and flow with them. What happens if they go down? So we can actually still let people check out even if they're down. So we will arrange some deals and so on. So that's very important. Assume that the third parties will go down. Make sure that you have multiple payment gateways. So if you have credit card, make sure you have at least two credit card gateways so that you can fail over. It doesn't need to be live failover. If you fail over within 5 minutes, that's good enough because people still can check out. And do not use queuing systems. This is crazy. Like it can only happen in Sweden that you have queues on the websites. Seriously, I've never experienced this in anywhere in the world. I came here, of course, all the queuing in the shops and the banks. It kind of makes sense. You get it. You guys love queues, but when I saw it on the websites, it just blew my mind. So you go to the website and you get the queue number and you wait. I don't understand it. Don't use it. It's an insult to engineering, seriously. And if you're from engineers, don't let your bosses push you to use queuing systems. If you're from, above, don't take in the queuing system. Like you, I don't want. I want to be polite and everything, but and the reason I hate them, because when we went down in 2015, the first email I have in my inbox is from, I will not call what company it is, but it was from queuing system company saying, "Oh, by the way, maybe you need us for your future events." That was so insulting. Next phase is preparation. Of course, based on the whatever you did with the review, you should fix all the architecture fails and do the load testing. It is very, very important. We use Apica for our load testing, and you can do a very simple load test with a punch benchmark and similar tools, and it's fine. However, I would recommend setting up the real user flow monitoring testing. So as I explained about the behavior of the customer, based on that behavior, we have our load testing flows that imitate that behavior, basically. So when we run the load test, we can see similar traffic patterns with the load test that people do on Black Friday, and that helps us scale. And of course, when we do load test, we make sure that it is 5 times the traffic compared to what we expect during Black Friday. And well, we push to the limit where we go down, and that's where you should go for. Actually, on the production systems, run the load test on production systems that it would go down. Having a 5 to 10 minute downtime before Black Friday on any slow moving day on e-commerce side, it's acceptable compared if you would experience downtime on Black Friday. So it's worth the cost, to be honest. Yeah, chaos engineering, probably most of you know about it. Kill some services, it's always fun. Load one more forget about those queuing systems. Seriously, don't think about them. Even though they will push it for you, don't do it. Anyone here works in the company that has a queuing system on their website? No, thank God. Good. um, yes. We had was yeah, one of the guys got from marketing also contacted. So we were contacted by queuing system, but he also contacted, and couple times actually, and he wrote to our CTO, but maybe we should use. Our CTO said, if you suggest this one more time, you get fired. So we have very strong opinion in our department about it. It's really insulting. If you can't make infrastructure scale, what are you doing in your job, right? I don't understand unless you run H&M. That is crazy. Yeah, but it goes against online e-commerce. That's why you're coming to the site. You don't wait in the queues. I understand you go to Emporio, you wait, and even then, I hate waiting. I don't wait in the queues. And then you come to the website. It's just annoying. Yeah, it's very important to set all the monitoring. That goes without saying. What else? I think, yeah, load shedding is very important in this part as well. Prepare your systems to be able to do the load shed. So if you, in unlikely experience after all of this, if you actually go down, it's important to be able to remove some load and let some users go through the systems. So we have an option to disable certain countries, for example. So non-performing countries, or non-Sweden, non-Denmark, anything non-Scandinavian, we, because we have a Scandinavian company, everything we have a button to disable. Another thing, disable features, also part of the load shedding practice. Find all the features that you should be able to disable. Anything that creates much more load, or especially if you see doing load testing, something that is not essential. So in our case, favorites. It's important, it's nice, but in worst case scenario, we can disable. Recommendations is the number one thing for us is recommendations. Even though it's nice, but it creates it is very complicated process that requires quite a lot of load, and communicates with Google Cloud, with machine learning, whatever, and that is number one feature we disable during the load if we see that things are going wrong. So it's very important to prepare load shedding practice for yourself. Yes? No. Yes. So dynamic is a nice thing to have, but we are not there. However, I think it's a judgment decision in some cases, because if you're down, then you're on it and you can make a decision. But it's also, we are monitoring really closely when the traffic is coming. So 2 years ago, we did disable some features before traffic started, and then when we saw that we can handle the load, then we enabled features back again. So it's important to be able to it's really useful thing to have. You can implement circuit breaker pattern, but it's really complicated to do, so that when you experience some errors, it would shut down those features themselves. But yeah, practice is different story. I don't know, it's yeah. Yeah, but then it already affected your performance, and probably everything is escalating, so you don't even know what the hell is going on. What else? Yeah, I think a good recommendation is to do a change freeze. We do that, but not in a sense that we don't allow any development at all. We just say no big or risky features, except if it will increase conversion rate. So anything on the checkout, let's go do it. It's a joke, but it actually is kind of true. We tried to fix a lot of bugs during last couple weeks, but we tried to refrain from deploying anything big. And last year was so successful that we actually deployed on our website 3 or 4 times during Black Friday itself. So it is possible to do it, and as long as it's not something risky and you test it very well. In most companies, I would recommend the change freeze thing. And yeah, final phase is Black Friday. So you autoscale also manually. It actually is a good tip for Google Cloud. Autoscaler is amazing in theory, but in practice, if you get so much traffic within a couple minutes, no autoscaler will be able to handle it without any errors. It might catch up, but still some users might experience. So if you know that it's coming, why not just pre-warm and add some extra resources, and then you can always shut them down later on. So I definitely recommend before Black Friday, just before the traffic starts, add some extra resources so you don't take a risk. It's not worth it. And yeah, sit relax and watch revenue numbers, or I wrote call Rackspace. This is a slide from Rackspace presentation, but because we normally they call me, but you can call them as well in case it happens. And postmortems is of course very important. So we do write postmortems in our company from the platform perspective, and they are blameless, and we analyze, and then we follow up on the things that need to be improved. And it's such a good healthy practice that if you're not doing, you should do it. Who is doing postmortems? One. And who wants to do postmortems? Not that many. Come on, guys. Yes. Okay. So I'm over time, but I really want to share. Yeah. Don't even start thinking about those queuing systems. Even if you went down, just fix your infrastructure. Seriously. Quick example. So this is what happened. This is I think from 2016 and 17 where we had issues. This is our chat. We had previous uh, previous before this, we had a famous fuck in in the one line where the shit hit the fan when developer writes 3 times fuck in one line. And this was the experience. Go up, go up, go up. We are alive. Fuck yes, and so on. And it was so stressful and fun, but it was very stressful. And this is the next year, and I was just writing status here, and I think this is a nice line where I say like from when the traffic hit from apps, we went from 40 RPMs to 71 in 1 minute, and there was no problem. And what I mentioned about manual auto scaling, I over provisioned so that we were running at 10% of our capacity because I was really scared to go down. 2 years in a row going down means that I'm losing my job. So yeah, exactly. It's so it's and this kind of shows the picture where it was just status reporting, writing some numbers, and it was so boring. And on Monday when we met, all people were saying like, this is freaking boring. This is the most boring Black Friday we had. And as I mentioned, we did deploys even on Friday itself. So yeah. uh, it was also a funny story because I'm when Black Friday happens and I have downtime, I have my wife on the side that is answering the calls from the sea level and saying the status because I don't have time to answer. I'm just focusing on writing. Also, when you're stressed, you're making typos. So I had a person, just looking at the typos and things. And last year there was nothing to do and nobody called. So I was very annoyed that nobody called me and said, "Yeah, good job." Uh, about the cloud itself, it's challenging a little bit. So even though, of course, you can scale and so on, but you still can go down. Actually, cloud is less reliable. So this is something to have in mind. You will go down much more. And we had a huge downtime just a couple months ago, and it was funny and unfunny because funny was that it happened exactly when I was on the ferry between Sweden and Lithuania, so I had no way to help because there was no internet. I didn't even know what was happening, but we had a couple other guys that were helping out. And funny because it was actually Google Cloud outage, so it was a huge outage if you remember, guys, but it happened in the US. So the question is, why did we go down? And that's because we didn't think that Google Cloud APIs are relying on one zone. So we were using certain Google Cloud APIs and consoles to do a DNS load balancing, and Google Cloud command line stopped working, and there was a mistake in the code that if it didn't return any results in the VMs, it thought that there was no nodes to load balance to, so it removed everything. And so downtime in US caused downtime in Europe, and that's the thing. We have to think about reliability a lot when you're in the cloud. And another final note is it can get expensive. This is my personal mistake on the BigQuery. BigQuery, I call it the golden query. BigQuery costed us around $100 a day with all the running processes analysis, and then I was implementing together with Cloudflare log analysis tool that would inform us about hacking events into the security command center. Unfortunately, when we deployed that script that was running on BigQuery, it was running on the table that wasn't partitioned based on the day, meaning that it was analyzing all the logs all the time, and that's like 20 to 30 terabytes table, and it would run 5 times every couple minutes. So instead of having a cost of $100, we were spending $12,000 a day on that query. So it can take down some companies if you're smaller. So be careful and have a billing reports. Thank God for one of the colleagues that actually checked it and and managed to stop it. Because I did that and I left for vacation to New Zealand. Yes, Stefan. So yeah, we worked together with Google to fix this problem from our side and their side, and they were good enough to actually credit this because it was an honest mistake. But it was a lot of negotiations in that practice, and I said it is very easy to get the cloud expensive. And on the final note, Black Friday any day. So this is a quick chat from one of the recent flash campaigns that we had. One of the managers came and said, you know, guys, that you have a flash campaign, and the infrastructure developers didn't know. I didn't tell them on purpose because it's kind of a test to see how it works. With our scalability and so on, and that's my final line, where I said it doesn't really matter with the scalability, automatic scaling. If it's not something crazy, of course, we can have a Black Friday any day. So that's the beauty of cloud. Thank you.